Hey guys, it's Ebony, and I am with a an artist that makes timeless music. That's the best way to call it. Kenyon Dixon, how you doing?
I'm good. I appreciate you. I'm good. How are you?
I don't know, I'm feeling away because you really do make timeless music, and it's crazy how you do it. Can we talk about how you can make music not just of this type of era, but you can go back with it. You can hit the 70s, the 80s. You can always hit any style of R&B with perfection. How do you do that?
I appreciate that. I'm just a student of the craft, to be honest. I think like just like any other profession, I do a lot of studying and learning and evaluating like my heroes and the type of careers they've had and why they've had. I'm always intrigued with why certain artists have been able to stick around for so long. Like why have we known these songs for decades? And so I'm always searching to try and find those feelings and figure out how to get those feelings in the music that I make today. So that's yeah, that's really what it is for me. Just doing my research and my homework, my due diligence. If I'm gonna say that, I make R&B, I think I should be able to know how R&B is made.
Now, what creates longevity when it comes to R&B though? We have a lot of artists nowadays, and it's hard to find that particular artist that we know their music is going to last forever.
Yeah.
So what creates that longevity?
I think intentionality has a lot to do with it. One, when you want to create music that can sustain you, I think that's number one. Being intentional about making it. But in my research, I've discovered that what makes classic music and classic artists stick around, it's a feeling. Every time we think about the classic records that we love, the reason we love them is because there's a feeling that happens every time we hear them that we can recall where we were when we heard it. There's something we related to, even if it's a breakup or an instance where something is not so great. It always goes back to a feeling. So what I figured out is if you can figure out how to curate people's lives and put music to how they live, that's pretty much what creates longevity. Giving somebody the option that we as humans we feel a million different ways a day, and so what you want to do is increase the chances of someone being able to come to your catalog because you have something that expresses how they feel in that moment, and that's what I've picked up studying like my favorite artists. That's why I'm able to listen to like whole albums because throughout that album there's something that I can gravitate towards no matter how I feel or want to feel.
Now, I'm curious, who is your favorite artist? Who are those heroes of R&B for you?
Anita Baker is like my number one. I always
Mhm.
say it. I think Anita is a masterclass, and I know that's like R&B soul, but there is no like traditional R&B without artists like that. And so
Mhm.
yeah, she's like a masterclass to me in emoting in love songs and just learning how to correctly like convey emotions through music. Another one for me, Tyrese. Tyrese is a big influence on what I do. I think just another person that's really great at emoting and executing records and tone and understanding that the tone of your voice can make people feel stuff. I think that he's done a really great job with that. Joe Thomas,
Yeah.
just pretty much anybody that came through the underdogs, really. And
Mhm.
aside from them, like Marvin and Luther and Aretha and even Nat King Cole, like jazz has influenced a lot of
Mm.
my love for R&B as well.
Now you talk about Tyrese, you talk about him, and it's funny because you did background vocals for him, right? And then
Hmm.
you basically helped write the project Black Rose, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Tell me, what was your experience like working with Tyrese, and what's a key thing you learned in that partnership and working with him?
So me and Tyrese are both from Watts, so I think there's always going to be like a bit of synergy there because we come from a similar neighborhood in the same city, and so I first started off with Tyrese as a background vocalist, and then I wrote on his Open Invitation album, and then I wrote on TGT's Three Kings album, and then I wrote
Mm.
a lot of Tyrese's Black Rose album, and so literally like early on, he was also one of the first artists that I like. My first like official tour, I believe, was with Tyrese, and so yeah, early on he just kind of gave me like a lot of the game. I think it was cool. I'll go even not just Tyrese, but going from being on stage with Tyrese, Genuine, and Tank at the same time.
Mhm.
Talking about for a young aspiring R&B artist at the time, that was like there's kind of no better work study. I'm literally looking at what it is that I'm saying I want to get involved in. And so one thing I learned working with Tyrese is he's really big on just getting things done. I say this all the time, but he doesn't care who you are, like where you come from, what your background is. If you can execute whatever the task is, he's always open to allowing you the freedom to do that. And I think that that has carried on in my career as an artist. Like my um one of my guys, Nemo, who is touring with me right now, he did all the arrangements. And the first time he did my arrangements, we locked in for a show. I played Togetherland in Dallas. And that was a big festival. And he was very surprised because we had never worked together before. And the fact that I called him to arrange the show, he was kind of like, you're asking me like to arrange the show? Like we don't really know each other. And I know this is like a big deal. Like, you know, you're established as an artist. So like you're gonna trust me with that. And the thing was like, again, coming from things I've learned from Tyrese, like when you have that feeling and you see the potential of what somebody can execute, I trust myself enough to make those decisions to give people the space to flourish. So that's something that I really to cap that, he's been killing it on tour. So yeah, that's something I really learned from Tyrese. I laugh about it sometimes, but yeah, I watch him just give opportunity to anybody who he feels like can execute it. If there's an opportunity there and you want to take it and you can, you know, do the job, that's something that I've like taken with me through life.
You do that perfectly well. I mean, a lot of the artists that I still need to the Alex Isley is one artist I still need to reach out to, but, you also had Susan Carroll on, you had Byron Jawan. It's crazy how you are able to take on a chance when it comes to artists and to put them on to a project or collaborate with them. What is something that you listen for? What gives you that insight that, "Okay, I hear it in the voice. This is what I'm looking for." What is it that you look for when it comes to collaborating with someone?
It's still everything, which is why I call my brand the R&B you love. Everything about it is filtered through a feeling. I think when I feel something in the music, I can't deny it, and that's why like most of my features and collaborations aren't like huge artists because for me it's not about just optics. It's about what I started off with saying that one thing that sustains you is intentionality. So I know that my goal is to make music that never dies. So in order to do that, I must always be like obedient to the feeling of what I feel like works in the moment and not just the optics of it all and what looks better, but more so what's going to give somebody a feeling every single time they hear this. Because 10 years from now, if we're talking about trying to create a touring career in classics, time is literally your biggest determinant. So I
Mhm.
think that like I just trust myself in those moments, and I know that they're talented. That's always already there. You know what I mean? That's like the
Yeah.
obvious, but when it comes to making music, it's all about the right song and the right feeling. Because with a lot of my collaborators, sometimes we go through like a million songs until I'm like, no, this is the song. But then with some of them, we kind of just know immediately. So yeah, it's just they're all already amazingly talented. It's just about finding that moment that creates the feeling for me.
Well, let's go to optics because optics say that people want to say that R&B is no longer the way it used to be, and people are saying that even the new artists that are out here are not giving the classic R&B feeling that we've had in the past. What do you have to say towards that? Those kind of optics right there.
Um, every room I've performed in on tour has been packed,
Amen.
and I'm an independent R&B artist who is also currently competing with major artists because there are also about 50 other tours that are happening at the same time as this independent R&B artist and in the same cities and sometimes on the same nights. And we're still managing to pack out rooms with people who love R&B. And I make sure I tell them every night when I'm standing on stage, literally how you pose the question. I tell them, we see so much online about people attempting, really it's like an attempt at erasure of R&B music and pretending it doesn't exist. I'm like, but I'm standing here looking at all of you who made a conscious decision to come and support R&B. So I can never say that R&B is dead, because I would be ignoring the fact that you all showed up to support me. So I think I understand the challenge with, although it can be looked at as lazy. I always understand both sides, but I understand the challenge with people saying R&B music was like, it was easier to find, and back then in the 90s and the 2000s, it's just the output was different. Agreed. However, artists have a lot more freedom now, and if artists didn't have that freedom, we wouldn't get some of the ideas that we have. And just like in any era with anything, you have to sift through the good and the bad. I think that's what highlights what's exceptional. If everything was exceptional, you wouldn't know what wasn't. So I
Mm,
think in every era, we've had music that wasn't so great. Yes, we possibly had less of it, but I think that that's a technological thing. That's not something to blame the artist for. It's just technology has advanced, and now you can go get a laptop, produce on that laptop, record it, upload it, and you don't have to go through the system of getting the permission of a bunch of other people. That has its pros and its cons, but
yeah.
I think that we just have to take the positive from it, and I think that that's the beauty of catalog and DSPs, because you get to curate your experience with music. You can tune out of what you don't like at any point
Mhm.
and go to Spotify or Apple and listen to, you know what I mean, whatever you choose to listen to. So yeah, when it comes to that, I think it's interesting, like when people say, oh, they play on the radio. Who's listening? Are we really listening to the radio, or are we just pulling a playlist that we want to listen
Amen.
to? So
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? So yeah, that's how I see it.
It's crazy because talking about R&B and you're so well crafted in it, it's just not R&B though with you. You do pop. You do everything. I mean, as it's crazy your versatility. Why is it important for artists today, songwriters today, to be versatile in their style?
I think versatility gives you longevity. I think that I am 100% an R&B artist, but I think that R&B also pushes the envelope. I think people have attempted to put R&B in this little like box, and we say it's only supposed to sound like, and I think
Yeah.
a lot of the music, a lot of the pop music, a lot of the country music, like is inspired by R&B. And considering that R&B like kind of was developed from that church experience, all of these things are byproducts of what R&B, came from. And so I think that the versatility for me, one, it helps you connect with bigger audiences and more people. It's I look at it as different ways to put out the same message. So everybody doesn't receive things the same way. You have to know people's reception style and communication style, and you may need to hear it in this form for you to understand, but it's always the same message for me. So I think that when it comes down to being versatile, it's just all about broadening your network and connection. But for me, it's fun. I think it's fun, like to know that you can pull this stuff out of your back pocket and you have these other options just when you want to. Like I'm a I'm a trained professional dancer of 15 plus years. And this was never
Mhm.
anything that I emphasized in my career until the tour that I'm on now. I'm starting to incorporate dance a little more. But it's like, to me, it's fun because it's like, let's just elevate the show for no reason. Here's another element of something that I can do. You know what I mean? And it gives you something to work towards. Like when I'm playing arenas one day, I have the capability to produce the type of show that I've paid to go and see.
Yeah.
Like I just paid and went to see Chris Brown's show last night at an arena specifically because I was like, I want some inspiration. I want to go and see, you know what I mean? Like, let me
Yeah.
just go and see what a larger show looks like because I'm gradually climbing. This tour now is bigger than my last tour. Who knows where I'm going to be next tour? Let me go and imagine what I want it to look like and feel like. So I think that that's what's cool because as I'm watching it, I was able to put myself in his shoes, and I'm like, oh, that's tight. I can do that. I can do that. I can see this happening. You know
You
what I
can hang
mean?
from the
So it's
ceiling and everything too?
yeah, now see heights. Now heights is a little different for me. I
Look,
probably
okay.
would do it just for the shock value, but I think yeah, Chris might have me on that.
It's for your shock value, okay? It's
Yeah,
for you to
yeah,
get
yeah,
Okay, well, listen, it's funny, when I was going through my research of you and finding dancing and even a little rapping. Am I correct that rapping was a thought process too? Am I right about that?
yeah. So that's what starting off in music. I thought I
Mhm.
was gonna be a rapper.
Mhm.
That was kind of like what I was doing first. I think a lot of it had to do with my environment though. I'm from the projects, so growing up in an area like that, that's especially like crime ridden and gang ridden, and if you were gonna get into music, it just wasn't the environment wasn't conducive to you saying you want to do something like R&B. If you're gonna do
Right.
music, you know what I mean. Um, Considering the environment and what that looks like, it's like rapping is the thing. Which was the same case with like dancing. Like me being a guy from the hood,
Mhm.
professionally dancing, like that's not ideal from somebody from my area. So I have to find like the courage to be like, no, I actually like this. This is, what I want to do. So with rapping, I realized it wasn't something that I loved. I love music and I love
Mm.
lyrics and putting words together. And so when I got comfortable with using my voice, because it was always present, because it's like hereditary, so it's like it was always there. But once I found the courage, that's when I realized that like rapping for me was just this like facade. Although now I love to like incorporate it in music now because I think that it's a part of like my expression. But my my end goal was always to be a singer. I think so.
I still feel like I'm about to go to an arena show. You're gonna be there. You're gonna rap. You're gonna dance. You're gonna sing, and then you might fly in the sky a little bit, not
It's
all the way up,
possible.
but it's possible. But it's
It's
possible.
real possible. It's
Well,
real
can we
possible.
let's jump to even your collaboration, going talking about pop and talking about versatility, your collaboration with Justin Timberlake. That is crazy. I know you've been working with him for a while, but how did that even, come about, you and Justin Timberlake? That's insane.
Yeah, so I started off touring as a background vocalist with Justin. That was my first like venture with Justin Timberlake, and Justin's A&R um basically heard some music of mine
Mhm.
and really loved it and connected me with JT, and we were on tour at the time when it happened, and he was like, after tour, I'm gonna be working on an album, like I gotta have you come in, and like because the A&R was saying like, and Justin told me like in front of the A&R, he's like, he only brings me like everybody he has ever told me I needed to work with is like a perfect fit. He doesn't bring me anybody unless he's 100% sure. Case in point, the two people he brought to him before was one, my bro Rob Knox, who produced
Mm.
a lot of like 2020, and you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
The other person was James Fauntleroy.
Nope.
so so
It
I'm
worked. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
your rate is
It's, it's up.
pretty
It's up there.
incredible. Yeah. So JT told me that, and then he was like, yeah, when we get off the road, like I'm gonna work on the album, like I gotta have you there. You hear stuff like that all the time. So I'm like excited, but also like this is probably not gonna happen. We're in the
Yeah.
moment, you know what I mean? And right, we got off tour, and I was probably home for all of a couple of weeks, and I got an email like, "What's your schedule for?" But it was like 3 months of like random dates,
Oh,
and I
wow.
was like, "Oh, like I'm pretty available." So I'm thinking like maybe they're gonna bring me in for like a session, test it out. And I ended up doing all those dates, and we have been working on his latest album, Everything I Thought It Was, since like 2019. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and so that's what happened, and we wrote a lot of stuff together. So I wrote, I think if not over half, I wrote at least half of um the latest album, and then we were able to do like some one-off stuff. Like we did this Keep Going Up record with like Nelly Furtado and Timbaland, which was really dope to me because that's like that's like my pop culture era coming up. So that was
Mhm.
like a bucket list. Like, oh my God, I'm can't believe I'm doing a song with Timbaland and Justin Timberlake, Nelly Furtado. Like this is promiscuous girl and like, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like that was like
Yeah.
a really big like pop culture moment. So yeah, ever since then we just Jay Harley goes into the studio now without like the two of us there. So
That's pretty cool, and it's crazy because, like, listening to the latest project of JT and hearing songs like Memphis or what's the other song I love? What Lovers Do?
yeah.
I hear you now. Now I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
there he is." I hear it because it's like, okay, and you are really heavily, featured on that project, and I swear a project from you, regardless if you're singing or you're writing, it's gonna come out with a timeless aspiration to it because you give off that, "Hey, you're not gonna listen to this just for today. You're gonna keep it going, and your kids gonna keep it going, and it's just gonna be a staple in your home and in your heart." So you did a really good job with that project, and I'm
Thank you.
so excited for more collabs coming out in the future. Have you ever thought about even being on the track with? There's a particular artist that I would love to see you on the track with, October London. I would love that. Is that a
I'm open.
possibility? Open?
Yeah, October is dope. I really love it. I love his music. Literally anytime I'm making a playlist, I always throw something from his album on there. But yeah, maybe one day that's something we'll make happen.
It's crazy because it's to me. I'm sitting here, I'm listening. I'm like, I really do feel not just of my today, but of my folks and everything. But anyways, back to what you have coming out. You just did your tour, wrapped up the first leg of the R&B You Love tour. Tell me about going on tour and how was it? How was the love back from the fans and just being in that moment?
It was incredible. I think so this is my second headlining tour, but
Mm-hmm.
something about this one was just different. I think the fight to continuously push out quality R&B made this feel like a celebration, like because you're up against so much as a independent artist, one, as an
Yeah.
R&B artist, with R&B being a genre that's constantly overlooked in mainstream, but also three, as a male R&B artist, because me and Tank had this conversation, but there does seem to be some like suppression of male R&B for some reason in every stream. So I think for me, that feeling, first of all, of walking out and seeing a room full of people that are there for you is always going to be
Mm-hmm.
crazy. And then like seeing them just enjoy the music and sing these songs like word for word, crazy feeling. One thing I really noticed this go round was the range of listeners that I've gathered, which is important for me because I think that again, when we talk about classics, they don't skip generations.
Mm-mm.
So like to be at a show and I see people my age standing right here. I see like some teenagers over here. Then I see like some 50, 60 year olds like stepping over here. Like that was
Oh
very
wow.
important for me because
Yeah.
that lets me know that my intentionality in the music is working. And that it is something that is not skipping generations. Because again, for me, I identify that with classic music. And because that's what I'm trying to make, it was really cool because it was like I was able to see in real time that it's working for real, and that 10 years from now I will look back and say like, yes, I was correct. So I think that's what's been really cool about tour because that's been consistently happening in every city I've been able to see it. And so the fans, man, it's just really cool to have your fans that are there for you. Like they're so proud to support R&B that they believe in, and I think that that just gives me, I don't know, that brings me a lot of joy to know that people even still love music the way that I do.
But get ready, you're gonna see it again because the PJ Morton tour, you're about to kick off with that.
Yeah.
What can people expect from that tour?
Um, you know, so it's a different show than my
Yeah, of
tour,
course,
which I
of
love
course.
though. But uh, so far I've played Detroit with PJ, and the reception in Detroit was like incredible. Because I didn't play Detroit on my tour, so all my fans came to came to that show. And so what's dope about touring with PJ is like this is that combination of like R&B soul and
Mm,
two guys who come from church and live music. Like we're actual musicians who are invested in providing a show with quality music. So I think that this is a case what's so dope about being on the road with PJ for me is this is a
Mhm.
case of iron sharpens iron. Like that's my brother, but I'm a PJ Morton fan. Like before I started working with PJ in that respect, like I was paying buying a ticket to go and see PJ
Check him
show
out.
because
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, this live show is incredible. So I think I love that like just there's a full experience there for people who love R&B. I get to introduce my fan base to PJ, and PJ gets to
Mhm.
introduce his fan base to me, and I think that that's cool because they all like there's a middle ground where it actually makes sense. And I've been seeing like comments from people leaving the show, and they're like, "Man, this made so much sense for the two of them to be on tour together." And so I think that that's yeah, man, it's really cool. So I'm grateful to my bro for having me come along and putting this R&B in front of his audience. I think it's really cool.
Well, I feel like the audience should be prepared for tithes and offering to be asked at as the middle of the show with this being 2 church men coming up here and performing. I'm kinda sad though because Nashville is not with you, you're not on there for Nashville, so we need to, you need to pop up in
I
Nashville
gotta
very
come back.
soon. Please,
Yeah,
come on.
we actually had a conversation. I think it was just a timing thing. We
Yeah.
were in talks about adding Nashville to the tour, like acting. Like I saw like a contract and everything. And I think
Mhm.
just given the amount of time that we had, we didn't think we would be able to execute it because we had already announced tour and we had like very little time. So I think I mean tour is never really over like until you put out a new album. So I feel like
That's true.
I'll like, yeah, my plan. I have no doubt that I'll be playing a headline show in Nashville like this year. I think it has to happen.
Please do, because I need you to pop up and show us sometime. We love
Yeah,
you. I
yeah.
mean, your music is amazing. I think all of us we can always bop to you, and like
I
you said,
appreciate you.
your audience, the demographic is wide range, and you will see that definitely here in Nashville.
I
What do you
appreciate
have
that.
coming out next? We have to know what is next from you.
So August 9th, Friday, I'm dropping another installment of my album, The R&B Love. So, my album, The R&B Love, was a concept album that goes through the journey of my love for the R&B that has inspired me from the 70s to the 90s to the early 2000s. And so I decided to take an unconventional and non-traditional approach to the deluxe album. And instead of putting out one deluxe, I took the songs and soloed the eras and added more songs from those eras to
Mm.
let people be able to listen to the album in a different context. So, for instance, my one of my singles, "Lucky," which was Grammy nominated last year,
Yeah, yeah.
it was 70s inspired, and so I took the first installment was called R&B Love, uh, Soul of the 70s. So that had Lucky on there. It had a record called I Love You on there. Um, and then it had new records, Never Gonna Give You Up, um, Don't Stay Too Long, and Can I Have This Groove? And so
Yes.
that was my 70s inspired, deluxe. And so this next deluxe that drops on Friday, August 9th, is called The R&B Love for the 99 and the 2000s. So this one touches on those records that were inspired by 90s and 2000s R&B, like 2000s
To that's
R&B
R&B.
and Good
Yeah.
Love. And so I two of the singles from there I've released. One was called Still and the other one
Mhm.
was called Far Away. And so this one is just more of those records, and I think it's like just in time before summer is over, a last little piece of fun, to feel like you're outside a little bit. And so yeah, that's what's next for me. And I keep saying I'm gonna take a break after this, but I've already started working on new music unintentionally. And
Mm-mm.
yeah, but I'll be on the road on and off for the rest of this year. So I'm really, really, really excited about that because I purposely waited and we pushed tour back so many times. And I waited and made sure I didn't really perform any of the music from this new album before tour because I wanted that to be like its own experience. So I'm excited to finish touring for the rest of this year, and we're heading to Europe in the fall. To hit London and Paris and some other places. So
It's
I'm
not none of
excited.
it's
More
Nashville,
R&B to the
so
world.
None of it's Nashville, so I'm not happy, but I'm really excited for for what you got.
I'm coming to Nashville. I'm coming to Nashville.
Please, please do. And I was gonna give you a list of songs that I love by you, but when I tell you I'm running out of paper, it's ridiculous.
Oh
But
man.
2000s R&B, I gotta give you a notation for it because it does hit the 2000s. And when I saw you in the rain, and I was like, not him hitting the One Wish. Come on, One
Yeah, I
Wish.
had to. I had to, man. That song was my goal was to like highlight quintessential like 2000s R&B.
You
And
did.
so thank you. And so I was like, if a 2000s R&B song made it to 2023 at the time, I was
Hmm.
like, what would it sound like? And so I wanted to, throw those little nuggets in there from songs that we love. I mean, I referenced so much like well in the ad libs, although Case was late 90s,
Hmm.
um, but it still has a spirit of 2000s R&B there. But like Brandy, When You Touch Me, there's like a nod from that in there. Ray J, One
Hmm.
Wish. Um, the bridge itself, I always get people ask me like if there's a B2K reference there, if there's a Tyrese, how you gonna act like that? If there's Mario, how could you? For me, the bridge itself is an ode to like the early 2000s bridge overall. So it's like that's like my tribute to the underdogs because all of those songs have them in common. And so yeah, I just wanted to make it as 2000s as possible and was more 2000s as well than singing R&B in the rain.
And that definitely is it, as long as you don't catch a cold.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
I got, 2 quick questions before you go, 'cause I know you have to
yeah,
go.
yeah.
What is your advice to independent artists, those that are out there, they're trying their best, they're in this independent lane, they find it to be a lot more challenging than they expected. What is your advice to them?
One, embrace your uniqueness and your journey. I think the first thing you have to do is actually put the music out. A lot of independent artists don't realize it, but because of social media, there's this like pressure against your will
Mm,
to be perfect before you put something out into the atmosphere because nobody subconsciously, you don't realize it, but you're looking at the best of what someone has to offer, not their entire journey. They're only going to put online what worked out. You know what I mean? And so I
mhm.
think that a lot of independent artists feel the pressure to compete with systems, and I think that that's the importance of embracing your uniqueness in your journey because instead of ever making that comparison, it's so important to just figure out who you are, what's your mission, what's your goal, what do you want to do with your music. And I think that starts by putting it out because before you release anything, all of these thoughts are hypothetical. You have no idea how people will respond to what you have. So that's one thing I will always say. Just yeah, put out music and embrace every part of your journey. I think when we talk about it being your moment or your time, I
Mhm.
wouldn't say I don't believe in that, but I believe in my story, it's always my moment. It's a different part of it. This may be the part for development to prepare me for this next part, but why would anybody else be a main character in my story? So I think
Amen.
that that's something that I would encourage any independent artist to like truly understand and embrace.
And lastly, of course, how can listeners getting more in touch with you, get more of your music, how do they connect with you?
Yeah, yeah. Just call my name and I'll be there. No. Uh, you can reach me by railway. You can reach me by trailway. No, but if y'all love R&B, real R&B, I have
Oh my
it's
gosh.
all online. Kenyon Dixon on your favorite DSP. It's your favorite digital streaming platform. You type me in, guarantee you'll find something you love. And if you're on socials, KennyGotSoul is where you can find anything. But yeah, if you're looking for R&B and you type my name in anywhere, you'll find it.
And trust and believe, you've already been jamming to him. You just did not know. It's always good to have. I mean, it's always good to have an artist that is timeless in their music, but also versatile in their style. So you already been jamming to him. You just probably did not realize that he's the person behind it all. Yo, I really appreciate you for coming on the show. I thank you so much
Thanks for
for
having me.
talking to me. I wish I could talk more to you, but you know, we gotta go. But at the same time, it's crazy to call you this Grammy nominated. You should be multi 15 Grammys down at this point. You
I
are.
received that.
Hey, look, receive it because I really meant 16. It's coming to you.
Let's do it. It's happening. Grammys are coming up, so let's see what happens.
All right, Kenyon Dixon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you.